All right, guys. So just got done shooting the episode with Samantha Harper here. I'm so excited to release this episode. And I mean, she's kind of like a jack of all trades, the feminine jack of all trades. She does everything from C-suite coaching, one-on-one coaching. She has sound vault healing. She's kind of like just overall energetic healer. She's got a phenomenal personality. So I'm so excited to release this episode to you all. And I want you to really, listen to it, obviously, but we talk about a lot of gems in here. So if you need to rewatch this episode, one or two times, then absolutely do it. Just such an episode saturated with great information from, Sammy being able to heal from cancer 3 times to, evolving from where she was, going through the naysayers to who she is today. So I'm excited to invite you on this journey. Be prepared to have your mind blown as usual. And thanks for listening. All right, Sammy, thanks so much for being on the Jacque Show. I know we've been trying to get this scheduled for the past couple of weeks and we've just been missing each other, but thank you so much for being on the show. I'd love for you to kind of introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do. So I'm going to hand the mic kind of off to you here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. I know we were playing back and forth, like, can we make this happen? I'm so glad the time is finally here. And so what do? I feel like I do a lot of different things, but it all comes together so beautifully and in such perfect alignment. I am an executive coach for C-suite executives, high-performing entrepreneurs, CEOs, all of that. And I am a sound healer. And I have been able to beautifully cross the bridges over, and rather than these two being silos of one another, integrate them together.
That's awesome. I love that. And being able to train and then bring in the sound bowl healing with that as well. I mean, even in an executive space, to be able to bring that and change body physiology through, something that I know you're highly passionate about it's a beautiful thing. So I want to kind of let people in on kind of like your journey. Like, I guess, who were you? What motivated you to make this shift into who you are today?
Lots of points of pivot, but I would say the largest piece of this was I was a trauma therapist by training. I have a master's degree in professional counseling with an emphasis in expressive art therapy and trauma. So I worked in the behavioral health field for about 9 years. I loved it deeply. And I've always known that I'm here to help people, help inspire, help heal, help guide, help teach, all of that. But I got to a point in my career that there was a cap, there was a limit, there was not much more for me to do in that space. And I knew it was time for me to take a little pivot. And I didn't know exactly what that looked like. So I had like this short little moment that I worked at an international relief and development nonprofit organization. And that's where I pretty much kicked off my coaching career. And the way that I talk about coaching for myself and my approach is deep coaching. We're not going to go as deep as trauma therapy, but I'm not as light and fluffy as a quote unquote life coach, because that's not who I am. That's not what I do. I can't unknow the things that I know.
Sure.
So it was during this time at the nonprofit that the executive leaders would go off to third world countries and come back home and need integration and crisis intervention and how to recalibrate basically into this world, because it's dramatically different.
Right.
And so that's where the coaching really developed and took place. So as a therapist, it was always important to me to have other things. Not everybody gets treated by the book. I'm definitely not a pill pusher when it comes to that. Although, I think that there's healthy balances between all of it. So if that's you, great. If that works for you. However, right.
Not anybody on this show is about
not
that.
Here.
So. No.
Not here.
Wrong crowd.
Wrong crowd. So I've always had a passion for holistic healing. And it was during this transition of moving from therapy life to coaching that I was doing a lot of my own inner healing as well, coming off of the coattails of surviving cancer 3 times, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute. But really doing some inner work and figuring out what was the best way to heal. And I went to my very first sound healing, it's probably 5 years ago now, and it rocked my world in ways that I didn't know needed rocking. I had no idea what was happening to me, but I knew that this was a moment that was going to change my life forever. And here I am now, and sound healing is a huge part of the work that I do. And I'm just so incredibly grateful for my own journey and how it's developed and got me to this place. But I knew from that sound bath, there was one particular frequency that actually scared me.
Okay.
And I was like, how could a sound incite fear? I don't understand this. But sound and frequency really does trigger and open up vessels in the body, that deep stored trauma at a cellular level that when it is broken up, then starts to release. And then there's the somatic release and all of that happened. And I was like, I need that frequency in my life because I need to heal that. I don't want to be afraid of that. I need to know whatever that is. So I bought my first sound bowl, which is the root chakra. Shocker. Like the base of all things was the one that was broken in me.
Of course. I was going to ask you that question. Which one was that? But yeah.
Yep, that's where it started. So my journey with sound started honestly from a very strong foundation of healing from the root chakra up. And I collected my bowls over time because as soon as I started healing at the root chakra, I was like, ooh, I think my heart needs some healing. You know what would be really good? My throat chakra to be open. I really could get more perspective with my crown chakra. So I collected my whole set. And now, like I said, a huge part of my work that I do.
Yeah. And I think what's really important too is, and I've talked about this on previous podcasts, but you leaned into that discomfort. You leaned into that like that yucky feeling where it's like, oh, something weird is happening. And a lot of people, we're trained from like a protective mechanism. It's kind of just innate in us. We want protection. We want to feel safe. So when we feel those emotions, we're so quick as humans to run away instead of doing what you did, where you lean in, you're like, but why? You know, what made that happen? And so when you do this stuff, you have such a strong why, which makes it so much easier for you to get up and do the things on a daily basis and make the sound vault and make new videos and make new posts. And it's like, you know that what you bring to the table is absolutely necessary, but it has the ability to change the world. And I think that's such a cool thing. And I love that experience. And again, I know all about like the bowls. We bought some up in Sedona and I'm just like randomly playing. I'm like, that one sounds right. I'll take that one. That one also sounds good. And now I don't even know how many we have now. We've got gongs upstairs and all kinds of we've got like a whole musical orchestra. But I mean, really, like when you start working on one thing, it's like, I fixed that or I'm working on that. Why wouldn't I want to fix the rest? Why wouldn't I want to do more deep dives into what other areas of my body may be stuck or not be, open? So I want to kind of segue into that where you beat cancer 3 times, which is crazy that you went through it that many times, but you're on the other side. So I want to know a little bit about that journey. How did you use sound in that as well? Because I think everybody would also want to know that. How did you integrate everything?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Such a wild journey. It still shocks me every time I speak it out that I am a 3-time survivor. That's crazy to me. The first time I was diagnosed, I was 20 years old. I was in college, fast tracking my way to be a doctor, really, is what I was intending on doing. And then, life gives you that strong pull of like, no, that's not your calling. You need to go somewhere else. So I had stage 3C melanoma, very progressive. Looking back and having a lot more research under my belt, I know now, I'm so grateful I didn't know in the moment because I would have probably been led by a lot of fear, but I had a 20% chance of living that first time. Yeah. And then the second time I had stage 1 melanoma, this was 10 years later. So when I was 30, so I was out of remission, didn't expect it to come through again. And then my third cancer came a month after my second cancer diagnosis. So it was like, boom, boom, like hit me on both sides of my head. Really, it was pretty scary, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because the first time I was really okay with my life being done. I'm like, okay, I've achieved a lot. I'm good with this. By the time I was 30, I felt like I had just so much more to live for, and I was just getting started. I had a family at the time, married, all of the things. And so I was like, I have a lot more that I want to be here for. And those diagnoses were, the second one wasn't as serious. The third one, I had a secondary type of cancer. If you've already had melanoma, then you have all these other chances. I was lucky enough to have a secondary type of cancer that was probably the scariest of all of them, because it was a very high risk surgery that would have left my entire left side of my face paralyzed, which I'm kind of known for my smile. I've always been bubbly. Like, my nickname growing up was Smiley, and I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah.
And so that was really scary for me. And I still I don't have any feeling on the left side of my face. They had to cut some nerves throughout, but I get to smile. My speech is not affected, all of that. So, but during that is times that I was, when you have cancer, or where you're up against mortality, whether you have cancer or not, and you're looking at, where am I at in my life? What do I want to continue to do? You really take a huge shift of what is a priority. And my health obviously was the main priority. And then coming from the background that I had of alternative methods of therapy and really want a holistic approach, I was searching out everything and anything to help me heal and recover and put my body in alignment and heal everything internally so that my external world could match what I wanted. Right. And so introducing sound healing into that is a beautiful integration of continuing to heal the cells on the frequency, the energetic basis. We are energetic beings, and our cells are operating on certain frequencies. And when they're out of alignment or not, or they're broken, they need a resource to come back. And sound healing was a huge component for my recovery after surgeries, and continues to be. I've been healed of my migraines. I had Crohn's disease for a very long time. Not to say that I don't have flare-ups occasionally, but they're far less significant. I don't get migraines anymore. I have amazing sleep. My life is just more balanced, and I really, truly attribute it to sound healing.
Yeah, and first off, just getting one cancer diagnosis is, that's tough. And one of the things that I tell, because I work with cancer patients as well, if you fully believe, hook, line, and sinker, the doctor says, listen, Sam, you only have 3 months to live, and you sit with that, and you're like, ooh, your body, if you believe that, hook, line, and sinker, your body will rewire itself to die to the date of 3 months from when you got that news. And so to me, like, you hear all these miraculous healing stories, and a lot of people can shift into that, well, that's her or that's him. I'm not that can't work for me. It's like, well, no. Once it's on the table, once it's been exposed as like, hey, this could work, this worked for so-and-so, that means that you need to open up your perspective and realize, like, listen, if Sammy was able to do it, you could do it. Or if John or Susie was able to do it, you can too. You have the same power inside you. You just have to figure out what went wrong and why your body adapted the way that it did. And when we talk about sound frequencies, and I brought this up to somebody, I sounded like a crazy person, but like, I used to sing. I still sing a little bit, but like, when somebody is flat or sharp, it's like, like, it's so uncomfortable. And so to me, I'm like, well, that's what your cells are doing if you're sick. You have that disharmony. And then when you calibrate it, you're like, hey, come up with that note, and then boom, it hits. And it's like, that's now enjoyable to listen to versus like, I just want to run or just like stab my eardrums real quick to stop the sound. So that's how I also kind of attribute sound healing to, from what I told you, hijacking the body to change the frequency, because it's something that's so powerful that whether you believe it or not, when you experience it, I'm saying when, because I want people to experience it with you. When you experience it, you can't stop it. No matter how hard you try, the sound is still going to hit you unless you shut your ears off. And even then, your body's still going to accept the frequency, even if you just can't hear it. But that's how powerful this stuff is and how powerful it can be. And that's why I'm so excited to bring this and share this. So when you were going through these cancer diagnoses and the treatments and things like that you were doing, because I'm just curious personally, were there certain chakras or certain areas of your body that you realized were not resonating properly that you had to do extra work on?
Yes. And it changes often, but during that time, it was definitely the solar plexus. And the solar plexus in the body is, you can imagine tracing your ribs and then coming to that point at your sternum, right behind your sternum. That is the point of the solar plexus. And a lot of people have anxiety in this space because your stomach gets upset, you have digestive issues. That's how things start to manifest when you're out of order or in disease, right? Starts to manifest within the body. And the solar plexus is also the place where we hold our deep wisdom. When people say that gut feeling, well, it's your solar plexus firing off. And so I mentioned I had Crohn's disease. Honestly, like, a doctor said that, but really, I think my energy was just almost, I don't know. Call me crazy. Fine. It is what it is. But my solar plexus needed a lot of work. And also my throat chakra. So 2 of my cancers were on my neck, which all throat chakra. And at that time, I was not speaking my truth. I was not honoring my full self. I was hiding lots of parts of me because I didn't want to be seen and didn't want the spotlight or didn't want to ruffle feathers. And so I wasn't speaking my authenticity, my truth into the world. And now that that's open, I get in a little bit of trouble. My throat chakra is maybe a little too open.
You're fine.
but there was a lot of imbalance within the throat chakra, which is why I think those 2 were actually located on my neck. So lots of work throughout that, but also systemically, everything needed to be realigned because everything starts to contribute to other factors and those get pulled out of alignment and overworking and your body gets burnt out.
Yeah. And I think that's another really interesting thing you said is everything kind of was out of whack. And with traditional medicine, it's like this whack-a-mole treatment, or it's like, hey, Sammy, you've got digestive complaints. So let's just focus on the digestion. So we're going to give you antibiotics. We're going to give you maybe proton pump inhibitors for stomach acid and just kind of suppress. But your body is so intricately wound that if you mess with one area of the body, it's going to have an impact on another area of the body, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And so when we just treat based off of a symptom, that's where the medical system fails. That's where a lot of even holistic docs will miss the boat because they're holistically trying to treat a symptom. And I mean, you can get some results with it, but you're going to have to continue to take that supplement or like retune yourself all of the time. And so if you fix that underlying cause and realize, hey, we got to fix the whole system, you got to fix the whole you, then your body can adapt to be healthier. And then you got to work through the shit as well, where it's like, listen, if you're in a super toxic relationship and you can't speak, and I have patients like this too, and this one, she's probably listening, she's always concerned about her thyroid. And I'm like, you never speak. Like, you speak to me and I listen, but you tell me that you can't speak to your husband. So like, I can only do so much. And your thyroid tests, by the way, they look fantastic, but you're shutting yourself down. And then there's like the combination where thyroid and throat also has an impact of down below, which also shuts down. So then sex life also goes down. And it's just like this perpetual cycle where, again, one thing impacts another. And you're so hyper focused on this symptom that you're not seeing the true underlying cause. So don't use sound bowls just to treat a symptom. Use it and therapeutically figure out why you were out of balance to begin with, right? Is that what you would kind of suggest too?
Absolutely. I always say when people come in for the first time, it's almost like going to the chiropractor. You're getting your body back into energetic alignment, but then over time, it's going to want to go back to how your muscles are formed around that in alignment. And so you're going to need to keep up with it. And each time you learn something new about your energetic body and how you're holding things in your body, and you can actually feel it. So our cells are passive. They're listening for direction from us. And when you get hit with pure frequency from the bowls, your cells are going to respond to that. And it's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So basic resourcing your body first. So clearing out energy. And that's just scratching the surface. That's just getting the body prepared and ready to actually do the work. So although a one-time shot is going to feel really good, it's the maintenance and the continued healing that come after that. Because everything that needs to surface, all of those parts of the body that have been suppressed for so long, that you've been ignoring, that you've been trying to cover up and numb from other things or dissociate from, those are going to want to come to the surface. So you're going to want to move that, embody it, have a somatic release so that you can come back to your center. I always say, come back to your center, come back to your home. Mm-hmm. And really that is the peaceful place that your body is meant to be in.
Yeah. And I took a note as you were talking there too. It's like when you do these things, a lot of times we can have like these repressed beliefs or thoughts or traumas that we had when we were younger. And so we may think that we're like, hey, I'm in just a bad relationship right now. I keep using relationship examples because I see it all the freaking time. But like, you might be like, hey, it's this. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. This just came up to the surface. And like each time you do it, like you have to keep peeling back the layers of the onion to get down to that thought behind the thought or the cause behind the symptom. And you just keep peeling and peeling and peeling. So when you embark on these journeys, I mean, it sounds, so people are like, oh, it sounds pretty, but like, you got to be ready to do the shit and face your inner demons. And you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And you brought up the chiropractic. I'm a chiropractor. So like, I love that analogy. So like going back into that same lifestyle, you're going to be exposed to things that you didn't know that you were suffering with or experiencing. And in chiropractic, we call that retracing. And so you retrace past damage, past trauma, where like, we'll adjust a little back and all of a sudden you'll get sciatic nerve pain. And it's like, well, I had numbness there. Now I have pain. What's going on? Well, your nerves are starting to fire again. So the more you're able to lean into the discomfort, like we said in the beginning, the better your results are going to be. But also know like this is a useful tool, like all of the time. Like, again, why would you not do it? That's how my brain works. Why would you not? The other thing that was really unique through your experiences as well and through what you've gone through, and we talked prior to jumping on here, you've done all of this, especially for as long as I've known you, about a year or so, like you've done all of this just, by yourself with a kid. So that's another obstacle, another objection that I see all the time is people are too afraid to step into their purpose because they're afraid to either not pay attention to their kid or they use their kid as an excuse not to lean into their purpose. And it builds like this discord or dis-ease between parent and child. So can you lean into that a little bit? Tell us a little bit, like, how did you manage that? I know we talked about him sitting in on your trainings, which we know he's going to be an entrepreneur at some point, but 100%. Can you lean into that?
Yeah. I've always been, from the moment I knew I was pregnant, I knew that I was going to be a little bit of a different mom because I know that I'm here to break generational traumas, which is huge. Things. Yes. And it's quite the job, probably the hardest one of all of them that I have taken on and accepted. And throughout that, I knew I grew up rough and with tough examples. And I knew, well, I don't want that. So I'm going to make sure that whatever I do provide is going to come from a place of something and someone and a parent and a caretaker that I wish that I had. Mm-hmm. And that comes in the form of, it is the hard lessons early on. So it is having my son Quinn sitting next to me during the pandemic when he's doing school and he's watching me on my computer working and taking calls and sitting in on entrepreneur networking events because I want him to see something different. Mm-hmm. And yes, I've had to sacrifice some time playing with him because I'm doing some work, but he's watching me do that. there's a give and take, right? And I think that there's always seasons for it too.
Yes, I was just going to say the seasons. Because
yeah. It's not that I'm like ignoring playtime every time, right?
Yeah.
Like I say yes a lot.
Yeah.
But then there's also times when I'll be like, baby, you like those toys I buy for you? Mommy's got to work.
Mommy's got to work.
Mommy's got to work. And so it's just been something that he's seen me do. And I wanted to be a light and a beacon for him to know, like, you can create whatever you want. We sit together and meditate together. I have taught him how to do breath work from the time he was like 4. He plays bowls for me now.
That's awesome.
This is actually a very sweet story. I had played like maybe 4 sessions one day, and he's so good when I'm playing. He's so quiet. And he comes out and he's like, Mommy, you've been giving a lot today. Can I play for you?
Oh my gosh.
Like I lost it.
Oh man.
So I feel like I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
If he can see that, if he can witness it, and he knows, and he's watching, and he's sensing, and he's tapped into his own energy to know enough of like, you've been giving a lot, let me give back. I feel like I'm doing the right thing. So yes, there are seasons that are a little bit more difficult, just like anything. It's balance, right?
Right.
So it doesn't matter if I'm doing my own entrepreneur journey or if I was working a 9-to-5, there's sacrifice in any path that you take. Yeah. I just choose to fiercely go down my own path. And I want him to see that he can fiercely go down his own path. And I think that is one of the best lessons that we can do as teachers and caretakers to our little humans. All of that being said, and we kind of talked about this before we jumped on too, is he's probably the best teacher that I've ever had. So I learn a lot from him. And I know that this lifestyle is not for everybody, but take a chance on yourself would be the message that I want to give everybody, is take a chance on yourself and show new models and new examples of what you want to see.
Yeah. And from the energetic standpoint, I think, because how old is Quinn now?
He's about to be 9.
About to be 9. Yeah, I thought he was 8. So yeah, that's awesome. But like sometimes too, like you're doing all this hustle and grinding, right? And you don't know. And I mean, moms have so much freaking pressure on them. It's disgusting how much pressure you guys have. And to do it by yourself is like crazy. But the fact that like, sometimes, 3 years in, 4 years in, 5 years in, you're like, am I screwing up? Like, is this okay? And then all of a sudden, you see your little human blossom into, something pretty amazing, like to intuitively feel, and know that and to say it like that too, like you've been giving all day, let me do this for you. It's like, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I'm patting myself and I'm like, yeah, I do both sides here. Like, that's so amazing. And so, yes, I absolutely agree that you're doing not just something right, you're doing everything right. And to me, from a spiritual standpoint, your soul jumped into your body and it already knew the resume, like, or, like the game plan, like, hey, you're going to be battling cancer 3 times. You're going to learn some crazy lessons. You're going to go through this. You're going to go through that. Like, are you sure you want to jump into Sammy right now? And your soul was like, let's do it. And then, And then for Quinn, his soul knew that he was going to be birthed by you. Yeah. So he already knew the resume, already knew the plan. It was like, all right, let's do this. Let's jump in. Let's learn. Let's try to be a sponge and soak that in. And up until I still say like forever, but like up until 6 years old, like children are freaking sponges. Right. So the more you can try to teach them, that's when they're like, teach them languages, teach them this, teach them that. But you're teaching them like from some of the best masterminds and some of the best coaching calls, because you're coaching and you're doing training. And, I was brought up in a way where, my parents were 9-to-5ers, but my dad sat me down when I was 15. He was like, I'm going to give you one like non-negotiable in life. He goes, don't ever work for anybody else. And I was like, well, you didn't really set a good example by that. Like, you hate your job. Mom hates her job. Like, what? Trust me, do something that brings you joy, but don't work for somebody else. And I never really understood that. And then now, obviously I work for myself. I'm like, I can make my own schedule. I can spend time with the kids. And then in the seasons of me needing to get things done, I'll have my seasons, Megan will have her seasons, and we'll kind of rotate back and forth. And she's kind of on that journey, like following kind of behind your footsteps there, where we'll talk about your training, but I know she wants to do training with you because she resonates with you in terms of the generational chain breaking, which is something that, I don't know if she shared this with you, but she's been breaking through that as best she can. And sometimes it's harder. So like for those people who don't understand what that is, can you explain generational trauma, those types of things? Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Toughest job, like I said, that you'll ever accept and walk into. So we've all experienced trauma in our life, big traumas, little traumas, all of the traumas in between. And it is the decision and the choice to get healing from those traumas rather than letting them bleed out the rest of your life. So we can bleed out and then we can make others sick and continue the pattern and the cycle, or we can choose to say enough is enough. I don't want to continue to live with this pain. I don't want to give this pain to somebody else, whether that be in romantic relationships, as a parent, in work dynamics, in friendships, in female-male dynamics. It's not just generational in the family. It is how we operate as humans and making the choice to end cycles that are toxic. Because if there are continued cycles of toxicity flowing through energy, and we talked about this, it seeps into the body and then it makes you sick. And I don't know about you, but I'm just unwilling to have toxic relationships make me sick. And so I had to work through some really tough boundaries and cut off family members and do hard things because I was so determined to make an end to that. I don't want to bleed out on other people. So I'm going to cauterize those and I'm going to heal them, not just pack them with gauze, a temporary fix, or put a Band-Aid on it. That's just not how it works. It's doing the inner deep work, that shadow work. And I know shadow work is really a buzzword, and I don't think a lot of people understand what shadow work is, but it's those moments, those things that you don't really want to look at in yourself, that you're projecting onto other people, and then you're making yourself a victim. Whenever you feel like a victim, that's a cue to do some shadow work.
Yeah.
It's just making sure that you're not bleeding out on anybody else and doing the hard work that is required of that. And it's not fast. It's not simple. And it's being diligent and consistent. But really what that is about loving yourself enough and knowing that you're worthy enough of healing.
Yeah. And that's, again, Megan went through some of the generational stuff too. And we went through things where it's like, I can't do the work for you, but I can see it. And I'm a huge empath, which is why I only work as much as I do, because I absorb way too much. And so when she was diving into this and she kept going back to these toxic relationships time and time again, and I'm coming from a place of love, and I'm like, listen, like, I know it's family, because family's the hardest.
Yeah.
But if this was a friend of yours or a so-called friend, would you still continue to have conversations with them? And she was like, oh, I don't know. No, I wouldn't. I'm like, so then why do you feel forced to continue this? Because every time you talk to it, to me, the example I always use is like putting your hand on a stove and you just keep burning your hand. Right. Every time, boom, boom, boom. You're like, I don't know why my hand is always burning. I don't know why I'm always pissed off. Well, because you're crushing yourself with cortisol. And then that cortisol stays and remains in your body for the duration of the day. Then you start the day the same exact way, do the same exact thing, burn your hand, carry the cortisol out. And then to me, like, you can feel that. You can feel whether that person is aware of it or not. Like that energetic, like, vibrational frequency is very repelling. Right. And Megan gets pissed about it, but I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, I'm good. I'm like, no, you're not.
I can feel it.
I can feel, like, I feel disgusting sitting next to you right now. Not in like a negative way, but like something is happening. I'm here for you. Let me in so that way I can help you. And that's kind of my curse, is I'm a problem solver. I'm a doer. Like, I just want to help. I just want to fix, because I want to help to ease the pain and take the pain away from you. And if it hurts me in the duration and I can release it, that's fine. I'll just be a conduit to get it out of the body. But that's something where we talk about that trauma. It is really uneasy. It makes you kind of feel like a crappy person. And then you go through like these waves of like, did I screw up? Should I have actually done this? Did I jump the gun? Like, if you were called to do it to begin with, there was a reason you were called to do it. There was a reason that you were exposed to it. So when you did that, and even when you did this, a question I was going to say is, did you have like a whole bunch of naysayers, both family, friends and stuff, come out and be like, Sammy, what the hell are you doing with this sound stuff? Did you have people like that in your life?
That's a funny question. Of course
I had
did.
to ask it.
Of course I did. Of course, when you are stepping in your purpose, no matter what you're doing, and you're leading all the way in and you're doing something different than your historical patterns of things, people won't like it because you're changing and they're not changing at the same time. So I had massive expansion and massive change and a massive exodus of people in my life because of that.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that. I was dating somebody, and it was kind of earlier on when I was just starting to get some momentum behind my sound healing. And he made some comments that I'm a fiery Aries. And so you poke me and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. There was not a lot of support behind it.
Yeah.
And because I don't know, not everybody understands it, right? And so that just fueled me to go even more and make sure that more people knew about it. My biggest goal from day one is to take sound healing mainstream. Yeah. Because the more people have access to it, the more healing there is, the more ease there is in crushing those traumas in the past and really embodying the fullness of who you are and letting it go, not letting it stay in the body. But yes, I had a lot of people questioning, like, what are you doing? And this is really woo-woo. And like, what does this even mean? You know, like people not wanting to like be around me anymore because they're like, I don't know what that is. And
they
now,
fear
and
it.
Now they're like, wait, can I get in on a session?
Like, complete 180. I understand now.
Right.
Yeah, I think, and so when you were speaking there too, and you were talking about taking it to mainstream, I know that you work with like a lot of executives, which is super important. But to me, I'm all about being in the proactive. So like, as Quinn grows up and say he goes into like different schools and stuff, do you have any internal desire to say, hey, like I want to be able to play sound, healing sound for the classroom where you can do like an assembly and you get all the kids kind of gathered together and you do a session for them and then help them feel their feelings. Because I think start young. Why wouldn't you? It's like brushing your teeth. Why wouldn't you do it younger so that way you can be healed for your entire life until waiting for dis-ease to take place in your body?
That is such a brilliant idea. I love that so much. Yes, I would absolutely do that and pursue that. I play at a lot of retreats, and I know that's for adults, but it's a component of let's open us up and let's prepare our bodies to receive and recalibrate. But I think it's such a great idea for children. My son goes to a school where they're, I would say like mildly woke, where they're like introducing mindfulness into the classroom. They have yoga at school.
Nice.
They teach them about belly breaths, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But I love this idea of bringing sound healing into the classroom. Quinn and I play together all the time, and he wants to start playing for people. Yeah. He asked if he could start, and I'm like, yeah, let's get your buddies over here and let's play. But absolutely bringing it into the classroom. There may or may not be some things that are in the works. Okay. That are going to be big time. That would be for children. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And that's just how my mind works. Like when I hear something that's amazing like this, my mind automatically goes into business mode. Like how can I like get this out there even more besides just doing a podcast? And even if Quinn just took over and he was like, hey, you know, for lunchtime, I'll eat my lunch and then I'll play sound bowls. Because I almost guarantee, even if they're not laying down, relaxing, like just being in the presence of that, like the chatter is going to stop and things are going to be more calm and people are going to be open to receiving it. And so I see a huge shift in terms of potential with being able to start kids younger. Because I know my son, Hoyt, he's only 3. He's going to be 4 in July. But he freaking loves sound bowls. Like there's something about them, and he tries to play. He doesn't have the coordination right now to really do it, but like, and he knocks them over, and it's dangerous. but I mean, he loves it, and he loves the gong and like all the little instruments and tools and stuff. And I think that if we can get this into schools sooner, or just let parents know, like, hey, this is a tool that can help your kid really kind of get through like the teenage years of like, and help to inspire them to be who they were called to be. I think
there's a big calling there. And the beautiful thing about the bowls is that it takes your body into a theta wave state, which is that beautiful lucid state between sleeping and wake. Mm-hmm. And that's the deepest place to be during meditation. Mm-hmm. And, people have a hard time meditating because it's hard to shut off the mind and sit still and be quiet. And I'm such a proponent of active meditation. And the bowls is a beautiful way to integrate active meditation. So you're doing something, you're feeling something, there's something to actually get you out of your mind. So it makes meditating more approachable too, which we all need. We all need to sit and meditate.
I know. I would fight it tooth and nail, and then I would just download like random audios and stuff, and I would just like have them playing before bed. And Megan's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I sleep so good if I meditate before sleep." And really, like in that, when you're talking about the theta waves, I have binaural beats like downloaded on my app, and it was funny. Like, made a post about it where like I can have all the energy in the world, then I go on an airplane and I'm exhausted. And so I took my little binaural beats. I'm like, okay, what sound is this resonating at right now? And it was in deep sleep. I'm like, shit. Like, no wonder I can't get anything done. Like I'm fighting against this. And so it's a way to hijack the body. But I forget where I was going with that. But but yeah, I mean, so in terms of the sound bowls and being able to heal, and whether you do start like a kids class or something of that nature, I think again, bringing it down to a simplistic level where kids can experience it, parents can experience it, and it just becomes like a normal conversation piece where, people can be healthy. And I know that there was somebody that I met in Texas who he knew like about like what we do and what we're into, and he knows we're like the woo-woos. Right. I'm like, that's fine, whatever. I'm weird and I love it. But he was like, there's a place, I think it was in India, where you go into this giant building, and I think they like hit something, and then the entire building, the acoustics resonate at a meditative frequency. And so it immediately knocks people into that meditative state to make it a lot easier. So there's just so many applications to this. It's just be overwhelming. And
all of this is really truly about the path of least resistance, right? Mm-hmm. What is the path of least resistance with the body? Well, it's getting on the frequency in which we operate at our best. What is the path of least resistance when you go into meditation? Is it getting the frequency that's going to put you there? Amazing. Do that. It's not about fighting the body, fighting the system. It's about what is going to flow with the system to help us really tap in. And sound is just like the secret sauce.
It is. And that's what I'm trying to tell everybody who's listening to this or watching this. Like, I really want you to be able to experience this. And I know, Sam, you do a lot of work around here. I saw you, I don't know where you were flying to, but I saw you were flying somewhere. Do you travel as well to do like sound healing for different businesses as well? So if like somebody's in Pittsburgh, if I'm like, hey, you need to get Sammy to come out, do you do stuff like that as well?
I do. Yes, I do it at the corporate level, on an individual basis, retreats, private, big, all of the things in between. I've traveled to Florida with my bowls. I've traveled to LA with my bowls. I'm about to go to Mexico and play at a retreat and speak at this retreat. So yes, the bowls and we go everywhere.
I got to ask you this. Do you ever get nervous traveling with the bowls that you're going to open up one of the bags and the bowl is going to be broken?
Yes.
Okay. Not to like speak into like insecurity, like, oh no, but
I have this bowl right behind me here. My very first bowl, my root chakra bowl, recently just broke, but it was actually a good thing. Yeah. When crystals break, they've served their purpose. So we love that one broke. But there are definitely times that I get a little bit nervous taking my bowls, but I have it down to a pretty good system where I feel pretty safe about it.
That's awesome. So in terms of we talked about the programs and stuff and your potential in-school programs that I'm going to continue to try to push for you. What other services and stuff do you offer? And I know we talked about before, there's a ton. So talk slowly as you tell everything so that way everybody knows, because you do a lot of stuff, but go ahead.
Yes. So I'll start with executive coaching. So coming into a corporate space, or like I said, high performing entrepreneur, CEO, C-suite, I coach on an individual basis, that way organizationally, and building culture around conscious leadership and what that looks like, and bringing in the energetic piece to that. I integrate sound healing in all of the things that I'm going to mention. During the pandemic, it was a really great time for me to weave them all together. So every component gets energetic and sound healing to it. From there, I have my group coaching container, which is called See Elevation Outward. Those are shorter, smaller groups that really help transform your mindset and get you to where you want to be. We have those pushes and those feelings inside of us of like, I know that there's more here and I want it. And so that group coaching container is really to help bring that tangible, so outside of yourself. I love that. Huge transformation happens in those groups. And then I have my Sound Vault membership, which is the virtual membership for anybody who doesn't have access to a sound healer nearby, or sound guide, or practitioner. And the purpose of me creating the Sound Vault is so that people could really take healing into their own hands and get sound healing anytime from anywhere. So I love that. A lot of my clients use it for their kids too, for sleep time. Yeah. I've had so many people be like, this is the only thing that puts my kids to sleep. So if you're needing that, that's a great option.
It's gonna be like 1,000 people that just buy the Sound Vault. Like, yeah, I got it. Stu, go to sleep.
Amazing. Put on the sleepy time one.
Yeah.
I got the Sound Vault, and then I do individual virtual sessions too. So if you want a one-on-one, I give full reads on where in the body energetically you're blocked, what's going on with the chakras in the system, and help give you a pathway out so that you are in more alignment. And then I have in town, if you're in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, I do live events once a month at the Churchill downtown. Those are always sold out events. It's amazing time.
They're pretty cool looking too. I mean,
I love those so much.
Yeah.
It's just amazing seeing the community all come together and heal collectively. There's so much power in numbers. So I love that. And then of course I do individual and couple sessions from my home, my space here, and private in-home spaces. And I do retreats. So really, there's a lot of reach and a lot of points of access. So if any of what I've mentioned resonates, please reach out. I'd love to connect.
And that's the thing too, is like, at this point, there are no objections. Like nobody can think of it. No, I can't do that. Well, she's got this. Well, I can't do, she's got that. She does, like, you kind of got to do it now. So
I gotta do it.
Yeah. So where can people reach out to you? Where can people find you so that way they can start listening, start, consuming what you're putting out there?
Yes. So my Instagram is probably the most active space that I'm in. And my handle is Sam_E_pants. I know it doesn't make sense. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, but it's Sammy Pants. And then my website is SamanthaHarper.com. That's an easy one. You can find all of the information for coaching and sound healing on there. And then my podcast as well, which is called Journey to Alignment. And you can find that wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
That's awesome. I'm excited to get this out there. I know I think we're like 2 weeks out from like releasing, but now I'm just going to be like anxious, like, come on, let's release this. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I appreciate what you're doing as a mother. And because to me, like, kids are everything. And so there's very few awesome kids that are out there. There's a bunch of little twerps running around because of bad parenting, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Yeah. Sammy, that might not be yours, but it's me. Nobody judge her for it. They suck. But to be able to see there's more like-minded children that are being raised, because we can make as much of a legacy as we want to as our own humans, as our own souls. But truly, like, our legacy is carried on through our children. And we want to see our children succeed and grow and know about this abundant mindset that, you and I and all that, we wish we would have known about this abundance from a very young age, because things could have looked differently. Now, It could have been we may not have been ready to know it at that point, which is fine.
Right.
But to be able to do that, you're spreading that to Quinn. Quinn's then going to have that ripple effect, like throwing a stone in a pond. He's the splash, and then the ripple's able to go out further and further and further. So you're impacting people, Quinn's impacting people, and then you've got these programs where nobody has an excuse not to be able to do something. So it's like you're taking over in such an amazing way. And one of the things that I pride myself on doing on this podcast is bringing a certain level of authenticism or being authentic, because I've met a lot of people as well who are completely inauthentic, and it drives me nuts. So it hurts so much. And I see the manipulation like, oh my gosh, how do you sleep at night? You have that authentic soul. You're doing an amazing thing. You're impacting so many lives. And so I'm just going to be, obviously I'm going to be sitting back and seeing the growth, and Megan's going to do the sound bowl training stuff with you as well. And I'll probably actually talk to her about the sound vault tonight. So that way we can use that. So that way I can be like, well, Sam said that it would be good if we listen to the sound bowl before we go to bed. But thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. Tell Quinn I said thank you for letting me borrow his mom for an hour here. But I wish you the most success in the world. And I'm really excited to see what you do. And you'll have to fill me in on what this next level of excitement is. So that way I can put that energy out there for you to be successful.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me and sharing me with your community. This truly means so much to me. Like I said, it's about getting as many people healed as possible from the inside out and really allowing ourselves to thrive. And so thank you for giving me the platform and the space to speak on that. You're amazing. And thank you for the work that you do.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.